I want to make something clear right from the start, and it's that I didn't make a clickbait title just for the sake of views. I genuinely believe that Mindseye is worth experiencing because I had such a fun time with my friends, and I think that, under the right circumstances, you could also enjoy it as well. But to do so, you'll first need to understand what you're getting yourself into and what is required to make it all happen. Spoilers! It's a flawed game with issues that no amount of patches will be able to fully fix. Rest assured though, I'm not here to defend any of it. On the contrary, I think that the reasons most reviewers tell you to steer away from the game are exactly the same reasons that I think you should go out of your way and play it. So if you give me a few minutes of your time, I'll be able to show you why, and who knows, I might be able to change your mind. Wouldn't that be something? Start off by talking about the aspects that this game does right, and luckily for us, there are a few of them and they're present throughout the experience. The most noticeable one has to do with the excellent performance of all the voice actors. Jacob Diaz, our main protagonist, is an ex-veteran trying to get his life together after he was discharged for something that he did, but has no recollection of it. For context, since the military installed his Mindseye, the small chip located behind his ear, he's been hearing voices while also suffering from severe memory loss. It's therefore his desire to understand why that is while uncovering his past that is the catalyst for the story. He's therefore outgoing, determined, and proactive, which are all values that you want to see in any protagonist. It keeps the story engaging and, mixed in with a stellar voice acting from Alex Hernandez, who's also known for playing the main protagonist in Mafia 3, it creates a game that's more enjoyable than it should be. The same can be said for the supporting cast. Seb, an old friend from his high school days, is a really charming guy. He has what I would best describe as that bro energy. He welcomes you into his home when no one else would, and gets you a job at his workplace. When faced with a difficult decision that would have major repercussions on his livelihood, he decides to put your needs over his, trusting that you will do the right thing in the end. As you can tell, I quite like him, and if it wasn't for the fact that he's underutilized, he would have probably been my favorite character. As it stands, that title goes to Jacob's cute hacker friend called Charlie. She initially has a roughness to her personality, a definite side effect from dealing with criminals for most of her professional life. But after we save her from a situation that was rapidly escalating out of control, she grows a liking to us. From there, we become a professional duo. Jacob is the muscle, the big guy with the car, the guns, and the killer smile.
Wow!
While she is the person that empowers him. She can hack into cameras, people's bank accounts, the CIA, you name it. Their relationship definitely has that watchdog vibe, which, for all intents and purposes, definitely works in the story's favor. It allows the devs to delegate all of the boring side work so that we can keep pushing forward with whatever is required for the plot. Sure, they made her way too efficient to the point that it damages our level of disbelief at times, but for a shut your brain and shoot kind of experience, it does the job quite well. Plus, her voice actor, Taylor Carter, really does a good job at making us like her. By the end of it, I had grown a liking to her, so when the story came to cash in the emotional baggage, I was able to feel the impact. Basically, the script has a lot of issues, but because the main two voice actors are really good at their job, it makes the rest more forgiving. It's therefore sad that, by the end of the day, both were destined to star in this game because I do believe that they deserve more credit for their performance than they're actually getting. What also elevates their overall performance is the graphics. The cutscenes, when they work as intended, look really nice. The models are very detailed and are surprisingly close to their real-life counterpart. The world design is also serviceable. It isn't as detailed or as impressive, but it does the job nonetheless. A rare delicacy when compared to the other games in recent history that were crowned with the title Worst Game of the Year, which I'll touch on later as well. Quick side note, if you're an achievement hunter like me, 100%ing the game and getting all the achievements is a really easy endeavor. There are a total of 30 achievements, with 23 of them being tied to the campaign progression. The other 7 are extremely generic. Kill 100 enemies, or kill 25 of them with explosives. Find all the weapons in the campaign, and stun 50 enemies before defeating them. By the time I had finished the game, I was only missing the only missable quest-specific achievement. Luckily for me, the devs separated the campaign into 34 parts, so replaying a specific segment was really easy to do. Overall, the cast really gave it their all, and, mixed in with the overall competent graphics, it creates a game that's easy to pick up and play. It also takes about 11 hours to fully complete it and get all the achievements, which is the perfect length for a one and done kind of experience. That is, as long as you can tolerate the rest, because the quality varies between being an okay attempt to something that is utterly laughable. On release, this game had a huge amount of issues, so here's a short list of all the major ones. Let's start with its inaptitude to provide a stable frame rate. The very first scene greeted me and my friends with a helicopter flying over the desert at what felt like 10 frames per second. Later on, we discovered that driving around town caused the frames to fluctuate inconsistently as the game attempted and failed to control the texture pop-in. Combat also wasn't spared, forcing me to shoot down enemies with a gun that would teleport between keyframes. The saving grace here came in two forms. The horrible enemy AI would barely hit me, let alone react to my output. Plus, once paired with a strong auto-aim system, it made gunning them down a joke, as aiming down sight became an extremely trivial process. Going back to the shit AI, the first time that I took control of Jacob, an NPC almost immediately collided with me. I therefore decided to see how it was going to react, only to discover that the pathing system was borderline non-existent. The same happened later on when NPCs would encounter an obstacle while walking around the car manufacturing facility. You can also shoot one of them and get no reaction from both the surrounding NPCs and your boss who's on a video call with you. Combat-wise, the NPCs would either refuse to take cover or would pop out of it every time that you shoot them. They would often also aim at weird angles and still somehow manage to hit you. Other times, they seemed unable to even hit me while standing still, and so much more. Other funny glitches include NPCs pretending to drink, smoke, mop the floor, and type on a keyboard without their related item actually spawning into view. I also saw so many characters T-pose while in the passenger seat of a car. Another character had their hair inexplicably grow about a meter high, creating a pillar-like object that pierced through the roof of their vehicle. Speaking about having to live through a weird hair day, cutscenes were far from perfect. In this scene, Jacob got up from his bed to answer a knock at the door. Here, we're being outfitted with a drone upgrade, but the drone itself never actually materializes on screen, making it seem like we're role-playing the whole process. Actually, funnily enough, the drone kept glitching out throughout my whole playthrough. At the beginning of the game, we all wondered why the devs added what seemed like a can just below our character. Regardless of what we did, it would stay at our zero-axle position, which, even my friend who actively works in game development, couldn't provide a theory as to why that is. Well, turns out that it was an upgrade that we didn't unlock yet, and, once we did, it would appear below us instead of being on Jacob's person. It's actually quite hilarious, because we get outfitted with the red vest from the cover, just so we may store it when it's not being used. But, as the machine remained glitched for the remainder of the game, I can only really recall a single moment where it actually appeared in its intended position. Most of the time, however, even when in use, the glitch would persist, unintentionally duplicating the item and making us laugh in the process. I can go on, but the point is that the game is now in a better state, thanks to the release of the latest 1.9 patch. When it was released, I decided to replay the first half of the game just to see the progress. I can therefore confidently state that the frame drops and the glitches have been fixed for the most part. The AI for both the NPCs and the enemies are also noticeably better. NPCs now walk more realistically and appear with whatever item is required to complete their animation cycle. Enemies now use cover and try to flank you, making it more engaging and demanding than before. Don't get me wrong though, the combat still isn't up to the modern standards. You will enter a combat zone by selecting one of the many items that you have in your roster before proceeding to headshot all attackers. Then, once your health drops, you occasionally have to take cover to let your health regeneration do its thing. There's barely any reason for you to switch between your guns, as all enemies feel the same on a mechanical level. Only the robots require a little more planning, as destroying the two batteries on its back immediately incapacitates it. But at the end of the day, shooting it from the front is also feasible. It will just require a lot more bullets, which you always have in abundance. Oh, and I just find it really dumb that the design incorporates a traditional machine gun to be attached on their left side. The devs opted to not incorporate it into its design, but instead have them lazily clip it onto it so that the player can shoot it down and collect the ammo. I get the idea here, but it just seems lazy to me. Overall, the game would have still felt dated if the game was released during the Xbox 360 era, let alone now when games like the Dead Space remake, Space Marine 2, and even Callisto Protocol exists. Yeah, didn't expect that I would ever praise a game that I spent an hour and a half essentially bitching on, but it is definitely true. Combat in Mindseye is very generic. It doesn't have anything unique other than the fact that, for most of the game, you don't have access to grenades. I actually thought that they weren't in the game, but it turns out that it's actually the very last real drone upgrade that you unlock. This means that you'll only get access to it after playing through like 70% of the campaign? It really doesn't make any sense until you find out that the enemy AI doesn't know how to react to both the drone and its weaponry. Basically, once you unlock it, you'll discover that they're incapable of reacting to you, meaning that it turns an already easy game into an even easier endeavor. Still, I would be doing a disservice if I didn't admit that, even with all of that said, I still found it fun to play. It never gets frustrating, and the checkpoints are usually frequent. There's also no difficulty spike, and as the game switches often between driving, active combat, and drone stalking sequences, none of it really outstays its welcome. With all that said, I think that the whole game is now properly playable, so if you're curious, now's the time for you to go and experience it. However, the real question now is, should you actually play through the mediocre gameplay just to experience the overarching narrative? Well, it's kinda hard to answer because, truthfully, I did quite enjoy the story for what it was. It's just that, realistically, if I had to group all of its flaws, I would say that the game commits 3 major sins that, even if you look at them separately, would be enough for some players to completely ditch this game. The first one can be summarized as plot contrivances and inconsistencies for the sake of the story. A very minor one happens a few minutes into the game. Jacob leaves Seb's house and is all like,
"Man, is it always this hot?" You'll get used to it. Sorta. Not really.
But the problem is that we see him wait outside and ring the bell moments before, confirming that this scene was artificially created to replicate the world-building scenes found in other games. A more glaring issue is related to the Mindseye chip. It's supposed to be this rare prototype chip that few have heard of, and even less have seen it, but the whole supporting cast treats it as common knowledge. Everyone knows what it is and what its purpose is, but no one wants to sit down and tell us because the script dictates that Jacob can only learn bits and pieces at a time. It's really annoying as it creates an artificial reason for our protagonist to go along with the plot. The second problem comes from the many instances where we're led to believe that the devs were incompetent, only to later on learn that it was done on purpose. By the end of our first day on the job, we discovered the whereabouts of the office of the employee that created our Mindseye. We therefore ask our buddy Sep to get us in because we wouldn't have any plausible deniability if we got caught. Jacob therefore wants him to lend us his ID so that his name appears in the data logs. This scene was intended as this touchy moment where Seb, frustrated with Jacob's impulsive and self-centered nature, decides to still put his job security on the line for his friend's well-being. In practice, however, they both look really dumb because we know that his facility is full of cameras. Literally the mission before, we were asked to use the control room to follow a suspect. We're therefore taught, early on, that everything is being monitored, so this lack of foresight from the characters looks contrived and disrespectful to their personalities. For the longest time, it seems like another instance where the devs didn't think this through when, by the end of the game, we learned that they did it on purpose to serve the plot. No spoilers in case you decide to play this game, but do note that the explanation does alleviate the situation a little, but not enough to compensate for the overall stupidity. Another instance will be how they designed their vehicles. Every car in the game is confirmed to be fully electric, but then why does every car also sound like a modern combustion vehicle? My group thought that this was them cutting corners again, but the devs actually added lore to explain it. To put it simply, someone's husband got run over by a fully silent vehicle. His wife, thinking that the situation would have been different if he heard it coming, made it mandatory for all cars to emit a sound. They therefore chose to make all the cars sound like a combustion vehicle because people were already accustomed to it. I just wish that it translated into the gameplay because no one reacts when I run them over.
Community automated response enforcement.
Both of these examples are experienced during the first hour of the game, meaning that it adds to the already growing pile of manure that's thrown our way. Then, when we get the huge reveal, it becomes too little too late as so many mistakes are still left on the table. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if someone told me that they refunded the game after both experiencing the abysmal state of the game and seeing both inconsistencies that, at first glance, broke their immersion. The last problem has less to do with the specifics and more with how the overall narrative is conveyed. Basically, the campaign should have been at least twice as long because there's barely any downtime or character development. You're always sprinting to the next objective, so anything that isn't directly related to the main plot doesn't get developed or even explained sometimes. We never stop to ask what motivates the characters to behave in the way that they do. We also rarely get to learn what makes them the person that they are because we're too busy chasing down the next lead. Sometimes, we do get lucky and a character provides exposition while we're completing a task for them. But, like I mentioned before, those are rare and often underdeveloped. It also doesn't help that a lot of the dialogue happens during a car chase or a combat sequence. It can therefore be hard to both listen and take part in the gameplay, making us unintentionally miss important narrative beats along the way. It's the reason why I'm not a fan of the first half of the game. It feels like we're being pinballed all over the place. Too many characters are being introduced in a short time span, and all requires something to be done. Then, we get our hopes up because we're told that we'll get answers, only for them to tease the concept before shipping us to someone else. But, like I stated before, it becomes a lot better once the story goes full throttle. It almost seems as if the devs didn't know how to start the game. They indirectly tease the villain, for example, only to then have them change their minds and go for the corrupted government official. Then, they changed their minds once more and came back to the original idea. Still, the mystery related to your chip is quite interesting. I love how it evolves over time and, even if it never reaches its full potential, I was still keen on taking part in its adventure. But, obviously, every time that I start praising the game, I also need to add a but somewhere in the end. This time, we're greeted with an ending that actually answers very few questions, creates and leaves even more unexplained, while sequel baiting hard for a follow-up that will never happen. This then leads me to why I decided to make this video to begin with. I had such a good time playing it with my friends that I think that, under the right circumstances, you could have a blast as well. Here's my controversial take on the game. I don't think that the patches make it better. Actually, to be more precise, I think that the glitches are exactly the reason why you should play this game. It was definitely the best part of the experience, and when you remove those, you're left with a story that's quite mediocre and complemented by an equal level of gameplay. That means that yes, I don't recommend that you get this game on PC. What I'm saying is that you should go to your local game store, get a used copy, close the internet on your console, and then just let the CD install the full thing. The whole experience is actually burned on the screen, so just sit back, call your friends over, get some drinks and some food, and then just let all hell loose on your screen. The setting will ensure that you don't take any of it seriously, allowing you to laugh at the absurdities that are generated as you progress. What's cool is that it happens often enough that the experience never becomes stale, and the glitches are also varied enough that will keep you surprised. The first 4 hours are mostly like that, making it the perfect entertainment for an end of the week chill. Then, once the story gets interesting, it somehow manages to be less broken, allowing you and your group to enjoy the best parts properly. This is also why Mindseye isn't the worst thing that released in recent history, unlike what most people would like you to believe. For context, Lord of the Rings Gollum is worse because it has muddy textures, horrible gameplay, and an uninteresting story. It also used to crash often and was poorly optimized on all systems. Mindseye looks better, and the gameplay is borderline fun, especially when it glitches midway through a shootout. The characters are also charming, and the voice acting elevates the script consistently. Plus, no matter how low the frame rate drops, or that the pop-in becomes unbearable, it never crashes, and none of the graphical glitches prevented me from continuing the game. Moving on, Rise of Kong is also worse for the same reasons as Gollum. Other games that I owned which are worse would be Right to Hell Retribution, Balan Wonderworld, Mindjack, Sonic 06, Nerf Legends, Kingdom Under Fire Circle of Doom, Wanted Dead, The Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, and more. As you can see, I have a lot of experience with these kinds of games, so trust me when I say that Mindseye is definitely the best in its category. But in all seriousness, I do understand the frustration of paying full price for a game on release, only to discover that you were tricked in getting it. Releasing a game like this, especially in this economy, is practically criminal, and it's one that, unfortunately, the staff will pay for the leadership's blunder. Mindseye has already been declared a financial failure. We know that a solid portion of the staff will be laid off, meaning that more people will struggle to find a new way to support their families. It's therefore with all that in mind that I recommend that, if you're able to accept all of the shortcomings that I mentioned previously, I think you should make the most of a bad situation and just try it out. If you set your expectations properly, this could be the same as watching a cringe movie like The Room, Sharknado, or my favorite one, which is the 2002 live-action movie of the Monkey King, where this guy plays the legendary Sun Wukong. Anyways, that's all I have for you now, so do like and subscribe, let me know if I was able to change your mind, or if you just feel like sharing with me your thoughts, please do so. I also want to thank my friends and my spouse for essentially playing it with me, because it definitely made my week. Quick update, if you've been following my channel for a while, you probably realized I didn't post anything since January, and that's because I'm still working hard on my Hogwarts Legacy video. Currently, the first 2 parts are fully complete, and once combined, creates a video of about 5.5 hours long. Part 3 is still being written, so I still have a long way to go before I'm done, so I thank you in advance for your patience, and I hope that you're gonna stick around for when it actually releases. Hit the notification bell if you want to hear when that happens. Thanks again for watching, and thank you for making this gamer's dream a reality. I really appreciate it. Bye now.